Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. And I can see the students have joined from our school, School of Language, Literature and Humanities, as well as from School of Buddhist Studies, Philosophy and Comparative Religion. So welcome you to this first lecture from the two lectures that we are going to receive from Professor Rajnish, sir. And let me just briefly introduce him to our students and also the faculty members who have joined. So Professor Rajnish Kumar Mishra is currently serving at the School of Sanskrit and Indic Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi. And his area of expertise are Kashmiri Shaivism, Buddhism, Sanskrit linguistics, Sanskrit poetics, Asian literature, philosophy of language, comparative poetics, and comparative religion. And he has written numerous papers and books, and we have been personally benefited from his books like Buddhist Theory of Meaning and Literary Analysis for our course, which is on Buddhist theories and literary analysis, as well as Buddhist thinkers and literary criticism. So, before I request Professor Rajnish, I let me just, on behalf of our Nalanda University and Vice Chancellor, Honorable Professor Abhay Kumar Singh, let me warmly welcome you to this first lecture that we are having online and expecting to have more in person later. And I would also welcome our Dean, School of Language, Literature and Humanities, Professor Sushant is with us. And I would request him now to say a few words and welcome Sir for this session. Sir, over to you.
No, sir, you have you have introduced him very well. So I think we should go straight to our program. But formally, sir, I would welcome you. It's a pleasure that you have agreed to deliver these two lectures, and we will look forward to your visit also, because we know that we have to immensely benefit from your scholarship. We are looking forward for your visit also later. But today, sir, I'm very happy that we have been able to organize this, and Dr. Pooja has really done hard work in this. So we can go straight to the program, sir, because time is less always with a scholar like you.
Yes,
So,
sir.
okay. Thank you, sir.
Namaskar to all of you, and I'm deeply obliged to the university and all the colleagues who are there, Professor Sushant Kumar Mishra ji, Pooja ji, and I can see many faculty members are also there. It seems Professor Saran Kumar Sharma ji, probably Professor Godavari Mishra ji is also there. I don't know. So my pranam to all of you. The topic is really vast. I don't know to what extent I am competent to do justice to the themes which you have assigned. Let me begin with this Mangala Charan. Vagarthavi sampripto Vagartha pratipattaye Jagatah pitaro vande Parvati Parameshwaro. We are here to discuss a series of themes, and the first theme for today's discussion is philosophical assumptions of Bauddha Darshan. Before we start discussing the theme itself, let me devote a few minutes to explain what are the philosophical assumptions in general in our intellectual tradition. Philosophical assumptions. I would begin with some issues which are involved. For one of them is that the problem of translation. And as you know, the nomenclature of the knowledge disciplines like Darshan, Itihas, Bhul, etc., Sahitya, they are non-translatables. Non-translatables. If we translate them, then certainly there will be some sorts of change, some sorts of a kind of displacement, semantic displacement, let us say, which one can experience. Because once we translate these nomenclatures from one to another language, uh, not only the goal is misplaced sometimes, but also the process through which that goal is desired to be achieved, that process is also altered. So, and this happens with every culture. It's not nothing unique, nothing unique. If we translate terms from the other cultures in our languages, same thing will happen. So, in the this we have to keep in mind. We are discussing darshan, and there is a specific way to deal with it. Uh, Drishyate aneni iti, like this. So this kind of uh, what you call a kind of process or a kind of goal which we are discussing, that is very very important. You see, usually what happens when we start discussing Bharatiya Darshan, usually we start with a kind of division, that Bharatiya Darshan is categorized among Astika and Nastik Darshan. Astik Darshan and Nastik Darshan. Now, these terms are well formed grammatically. Astik and Nastik, not a new term. It's a well formed grammatical word according to Sanskrit grammar. Asti Nasti Dushtam Matihi. This is how Panini in his Ashtadhyay gives us the sutra, how this is formed. So, but what is the actual exact meaning of these two terms on which we try to categorize, try to classify Indian philosophical system? Is there any embedded or received taxonomy of Indian philosophical systems in our tradition? This is what I want to begin with, because usually we hear that there are three Nastik darshanas and six Astik darshanas. This is how it is done. Open any book on Indian philosophy, or if on the very first or second page you will find this.
Sir, may I slightly interrupt, sir? I'm sorry.
Mhm.
We have many students who are from other countries. They may not understand the use of these Sanskrit terms. So
Okay,
I request to explain it, or you can write it in the chat box also. That will also be a great help, if possible.
okay. It's better next time I will do PPT also. No
Yes.
power, no point. Okay, sir. Okay. Astik Nastika, right? Should I write it in the chat box?
If possible, yes, sir. That will be a help to students.
I see. Wait.
Yeah, Pooja has already written, sir.
Oh, yes. Fine. I'm very bad in typing. Astik and Nastik. Fine. Thank you, Pujaji. And so, first of all, we need to understand what is that which helps us to decide the two categories of Indian philosophical system as Astika and Nastika. These terms are polyvalent, and they are decided on several parameters. For example, the epistemological validity of the Veda. Those who accept it as a valid epistemological means, maybe Astik. Those who believe or those who accept other than this, or reject this, maybe Nastika. Second, those who have the belief in the self, Atman, not self, Atman, or those who don't. So Astik, Nastik can be categorized like this also. Then belief in the other world, also, that is also one of the parameters to decide it. Belief in Ishvara, that is a highly technical category, cannot be translated as God or so. Ishvara. So belief in this, or acceptance as a philosophical ontological category, whether it is available or people believe in this or not on that basis. Now, the question is that how are you or which meaning you are taking when you are going to decide Astika and Nastika. And on the basis of these terms, how to what extent it is justified to classify Indian philosophical systems. Okay. Uh, as usually it is classified like this, that three Nastic systems, Charvak, Bauddha and Jaina, these are Nastic systems. And on the other hand, you have Astic systems, Shad Astic Darshanas, and these are quite well known. You have Purvamamsa, Uttarmimamsa, I mean Mimamsa and Vedanta, then Nyaya Vaisheshik, and Sankhya and Yoga. So 3 and 6, this is how you classify them. But I would like to refer to a book called a Grantha rather, composed by a great Vedantin, Sri Madhavacharya, in 14th, 15th century. And you will see the title of the text is Sarva Darshan Sangrah. Sarva Darshan Sangrah. This is something like a compendium of Indian philosophical systems, though it is much more than that. And what is that? It is a critique of other 15 philosophical. I must tell you that there are 16 chapters in this book. Sri Madhavacharya composed Sarva Darshan Sangrah, which has 16 chapters ranging from Charvak to Advaita Vedanta. So you have 16 philosophical systems in this book, and the chapters are very thoughtfully arranged, and there is a kind of internal argument that is running through the whole text. Now, you will see that till you end the last chapter, that is the Advaita Vedanta, then you will realize that he is in fact critiquing, making Purvapaksha to all these philosophical systems to Advaita Vedanta. Okay, how scholarly this work is, you can understand. So, but there is no denial that there are 16 philosophical systems. Now, come back to this classification of Astika and Nastika. You have 3 Nastic systems and 6 Astic systems. The total number is 9. Okay, where are the other philosophical systems to be placed in this classification? Okay? Where would you place? This is the issue, and that's why I have been referring to this book. This again an important work by Sri Madhusudan Saraswati, and the text is called Prasthana Bheda. You will see that initially he has given a kind of matrix to classify Indian philosophical systems, something as Nastik and Astik and Nastika, like Nastik Prasthana Varnanam, etc. But after a few pages, you see that he's not rigid or much interested in giving you the taxonomy. I was wondering whether any such attempt to classify or taxonomize Indian philosophical systems is there in our tradition or not. Okay, I have not found yet. Okay, so I'm not sure that our acharyas, our darshanikas, our philosophers have ever done this. They might be doing this under the head of Astika and Nastika, but there is no classification as such, which can have all these philosophical systems accommodated in that framework. Okay? That is yet to be done. I'm sure that modern scholars have tried to do this. I am aware of that some scholars like Sundam Lal Pandey or Pandit Jagannath Pathak in his Darshan Rahasya, etc. They have tried to classify Indian philosophical systems, accommodating all the 16 philosophical systems into it. For example, 13th chapter in that book of Sarvadarshan Sangra by Madhvacharya is called Panini Darshanam, for example. So where would you place this? In Astika or Nastika? This is the question. Prativigya Darshan is also there. Where would you place it? Raseshwar Darshan is also there. These are issues. So I'm referring to a new situation that in modern scholarship, of course, we see this kind of effort to classify Indian philosophical systems. And usually, what happens? You see, we have in our history we have a colonial phase. So in that particular phase, many of our terms in the process of translation, the semantics of such terms have been shifted. Okay, maybe Astik and Nastik is also a victim of such kind of semantic shift. Sometimes it is done deliberately, sometimes it is done due to ignorance. When the Indologists, Western scholars, and with due respect to them, I'm not criticizing them, with due respect, they started translating Indian texts into the language which was culturally distant, maybe English or other languages, other European languages. They might have faced this problem, and probably they were translating it for the Western audience or non-Indian audience, let us say, non-Hindu audience. In that way, you will see that they have this kind of categories like theist or atheist. Okay, so belief in God is one of the parameters. Belief in holy book, or prophet system. These were their parameters to decide theist or atheist. They applied the same category to classify Indian philosophical systems, and they started calling it theist, or on the basis of theist or atheist. They also use their own terminology: orthodox, heterodox, theist, atheist, like this. Now, since they were the first who were writing about the history of a discipline, history of a knowledge discipline, this was again a new thing for India. We have never written any history book on any kind of ideas. Okay, we had written Sangrah texts, compendium texts, like Sarvadarshan Sangrah, Shadadarshan Samuchaya, etc. But not the history of ideas, which is really a tricky thing. You can write the history of thinkers because they are biological, you can write them. But writing the history of a thought system is really difficult. It's not biological. Thought in that sense is not biological. No one can say when this non-dualistic thought emerged, with whom. Okay, so these are the systems. Now you will see that when they wrote books on Indian philosophical systems, they classified it like orthodox, heterodox. The same was imitated by our modern scholars also, though they were writing in Sanskrit or they were writing in other Indian languages. That became the format for writing history of philosophy, history of poetics, or history of Dharma Shastra, and like that. So writing history of ideas or a discipline itself is a new intervention, which we have witnessed during the colonial period. Now, once the meaning of theist and atheist, orthodox or heterodox, replaced the actual meaning of these terms, Astik and Nastik, then some problem we can see. Problem of understanding these philosophical systems started. uh, you are not only classifying this philosophical system as astic and nastic, you are also giving a kind of tag or evaluating them. And probably the meaning that resonate from this kind of effort is that um, it's a kind of unequal value, assigning unequal value to astic and nastic, which has never been in our culture. Our traditional acharyas have not done this, you know. So they have accepted as Purvapaksha. For a Vedanti, other systems may be the Purvapaksha, but that is equally important. And with due respect, they have rejected or modified their visions or whatever. So because they were in the pursuit of knowledge. Knowledge is supreme. India remained a knowledge-centered civilization right from the beginning. So any kind of prejudice or bias may not lead this culture to this excellence. So question is generally asked that though it is a knowledge-centered civilization, and that is evident from the very first text which we have, that is Veda. Broadly, it is a knowledge text, not a belief a text of a belief system or a holy book. This is not a holy book. You can always question the whatever is whatever is there, but at the same time you need to be prepared for engaging yourself in the dialogue, in intellectual discourse or so. So this is not an offense. This is not an offense. And the name of the country is also Bharat. Bha literally means light, knowledge, symbolizes knowledge. So this is a knowledge-centered civilization. I'm reminded of UNESCO's list of 46 ancient civilizations, and all 45 are now vanished. Only this culture is still surviving, thriving. So that is very, very important, and we need to ask what helped, what was the the power, or what was the strength that let this culture survive till today, despite very difficult times in history, very, very difficult times in history. And the answer which we expect or which we gain is this knowledge system. Our acharyas, our social reformers, our great saints and seers, they never let this tradition, interrupted, or we don't see any kind of disjunction in this continuity of knowledge tradition. And they took every effort to continue with this knowledge system, despite all the odds which we have faced in history, despite burning of the libraries or mass killing of the scholars or so. So this has happened, but it survived, luckily. And important thing is that this knowledge was not against anyone. This knowledge was not perceived as power. If you go through a book that is Novum Organum by Francis Bacon, there he says that knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And why this knowledge is required? Because the purpose of this knowledge, technological advancement, was to bend nature for human comfort. This is usually perceived. So the culture perceived knowledge in their own way. But here we don't see that we gain knowledge to subjugate others or to acquire a kind of higher position or so. Uh, the ultimate goal is, as Abhinav Gupta, great Shaiva Acharya says, "Ih jnanam moksha karanam." Ih jnanam moksha karanam. Knowledge is the supreme cause of liberation. Bandhanimittasya jnanasya virodhakatvat, etc. So this knowledge must ensure liberation. Knowledge that doesn't ensure this liberation is not knowledge. It is ignorance. And its effect is only bondage. It may bind us, but not liberate us. And what is liberation? Again, if I repeat the some few lines of Acharya Abhinav Gupta himself, he would say that moksho hinam naivanyah swarupa prathanam hita. Moksha is nothing else but the expansion of the self. So there is no dichotomy, no binary, no opposition, self and other, here and this and that. Like, so beyond all these conflicting categories, beyond all these dichotomies, beyond all these binaries, so it is expansion of the self. And this is, Abhinav Gupta is not saying anything new. He's in fact reiterating the cultural ethos, what we have received from our Vedic and Agamic texts. So this is how it goes on. And then you will see that in this way, all these systems of knowledge, philosophical systems, all are equally important. Why I am saying that in the absence of others, we may not be able to understand the desired philosophical system. They are so interlaced. There is intimate dialogue going on between them. And in this process, the philosophical assumptions are made clear and critically examined, and finally they are established. So it is very, very important to understand Indian philosophical system in that particular context of debate and discussion. We are going to discuss Bauddha Darshana, and you will perhaps see that Buddhism, Bauddha Darshan is in a way unique in the sense that it is at the same time dharma, Bauddha dharma, it is darshana, it is tantra, Bauddha tantra, and you have Bauddha sadhana, and also logic, Buddhist logic, So all these things are you have together in Buddhism. Not all philosophical systems are like that. Even among the Indian philosophical systems, they have sometimes their ontology or epistemology or so, but all these things together are difficult. You will have agamic texts like agamic systems like Shaiva systems. There also you will see this Shaiva system is philosophy, it's dharma, it is tantra, etc. all together. But this has been the nature. We have never said that philosophy and science are contradictory or they contradict each other or they cannot go together in our culture. This is how the culture is unique, that all these things can be put together. They support each other and they develop. This is how it goes. You will see that we just talked about knowledge, and knowledge of what? What kind of knowledge, or what is the nature of that knowledge which we aspire to gain? Knowledge in our culture, you will see that cultures also differ from the point of view of their departures, theoretical departures. One, for example, if you take ancient Greece, the culture is rooted in its rationality primarily. I'm not saying that other things are not there, primarily, and that's why they could develop a discipline like philosophy. Philosophy is a unique discipline. And if it is translated as Darshana, maybe some confusion would emerge. So it is rooted in intellect, and that's why you will see that Greek philosophers, ancient Greek philosophers, do not quote from any text, let us say scripture or holy book or something, just to support their argument. Okay, they don't do this. They try to examine rationally, logically, and then whatever is established. This is not to say that mysticism is not there, but that is not the domain of philosophy. Within the domain of philosophy, it is highly rational. If we compare this to Indian knowledge systems, it would appear some very close to what we call anvikshiki. So a kind of logical system, logical inquiry. But darshan is, of course, much more than this, much more than this. And then the culture of China is based on its ethics. Ethical values are very, very important, and that's why you have philosophers like Lao Tse, Confucius. They have they have stressed the need of the values, social, ethical, moral values are very, very important. Now, if you look at the Indian culture, our culture is the culture of knowing one's own self. It is adhyatmika. Adhyatmik. The question or query of the self is very, very important. The emphasis is to know that element, that source, knowing which everything is known, or through which everything is known. You know, knowing that source, that ultimate entity. So that's why it is always directed towards one's own self. Yeah, one's own self. Knowing one's own self is the primary goal, and that's why in Veda, Upanishad, and other philosophical systems, uh, it has been reiterated again and again. And like in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, you have this notion that Atma va re drashtavya srotavyo mantavyo nididhyasitabhya adi adi, etc. That the self is to be known, worth knowing. Self, the knowledge of the self, because through self we know everything. So this self is very, very important. Self is important. That is to be seen, that is to be known, that is to be meditated upon, reflected upon, and that is to be inculcated in our worldly behavior also. You know, so all such things. What I am trying to say, what India has developed in the name of knowledge systems, or let us say art traditions, everything is ultimately directed towards knowing one's own self, or received as the expression of this self. You know, whether we are doing art or craft, like 64 art forms, Chatusashti Kala, or different philosophical systems, different knowledge disciplines, ultimately they are the quest for the self. Quest for the self. Though they appear very gross at one level, but if you examine them, ultimately they will take you towards one's own self, knowing the self who is involved in this creation or in this kind of work. So that is important. So this is how the departures of cultures prefer their own elements, you know. So Bharat ki Sanskriti, Indian culture is basically a knowledge centered. And what kind of knowledge? And whose knowledge we want to achieve. That is very important to know that. Second aspect of this, where we are going to discuss Bauddha Darshana, though it is, there are many misconceptions also. Misconception because of the current contemporary political, interventions also, because Buddhism is treated in our times as political ideology also. That is keeping that aspect apart. Buddhism is not denying categorically Ved, Ishvara or Atma. Not this. This may be a misconception, or the way we understand it today. There is no denial, categorical denial of Ved, Ishvara, Atma. But in the place of such things, they have their own, philosophical assumptions, and every philosophical system has its own assumptions, foundational theoretical assumptions. Without that, it cannot operate. Okay, so there is no absolute categorical denial of Ved, Ishwar or Atman, but they have their own understanding or own vision of these our approach to these things. Sometimes these categories are Ishvara, for example. It's not simply God. This is also an ontological category in philosophical system. So philosophical systems are also called Sheshwara or Nirishwara. Sheshwara is called Yoga system with Ishvara, where Ishvara is an ontological category, and Nirishwara Sankhya, where no such category. So idea is to accept only those categories which are essential for that particular philosophical system. You cannot incorporate each and everything, because you are going to discuss a system. Wherever there is need of these categories, they will accept. Otherwise, they will not overburden themselves with these technical terms. So in this, you will see that they are not going to reject them outrightly. Instead of that, there are certain assumptions, philosophical assumptions, that is called anityata. One very important aspect is nothing is permanent. Okay, nothing is permanent, transient. And the other word is kshanabhangata, kshanabhang. It means momentariness. Then why it is so? Because there are two kinds of nityata which has been discussed. Permanence or eternity. I don't know if eternity will be a right word or not, but something like permanent. That is two kinds of permanence which have been discussed. And one is called pravaha nityata, and another is called kut nityata. Kut nityata. Pravaha nitya and kutastha nitya. These two terms. Now try to see the flow of a river Ganga, for example. Okay, which kind of permanence we see there? Ganga is still flowing for 1,000 years or so. We don't know from when it started flowing from the Himalayas, but it continues to exist. We know that this is not the same water that is flowing all the time. Every time new water is flowing, in fact. And not that Ganga the name has been changed. Okay, name is changed. The same Ganga is flowing for millennia. For millennia, it is river is flowing. Now, which kind of nityata is this? Which kind of nityata or anityata is there? permanence or impermanence. This may be a kind of perspective to see at it, look at it. If we see the flow, you'll see that every time new water is flowing. So one can say this is pravaha nitya. The flow is perennial. Though water is new, but the flow itself is perennial in that sense. So this is how it goes on. And you know, Kshanabhangata can be accepted or understood in this sense. Pravaha nityata, pravaha nityata. So it is going on, but ontologically speaking, it is not the same thing that is going on all the time. But this flow, this in Buddhist, in the term of Buddhist Vijnanavadis, this is santana, Vijnana santana, you know. So this is the flow of that consciousness that is going on. Now, another important aspect is shunyata, and that is discussed broadly, as you might be, as I have been told that you have been introduced with this basic framework, some very important aspects of Buddhism. Shunyata is also a widely misunderstood term. Shunyata. What is that? Shunyata is generally accepted as emptiness or zero or something which is not there, in that sense. Nothingness, in the sense of nothingness. If we refer to Madhyamik Karika of Nagarjuna, great philosopher of this school, that is the Madhyamika, and there you will see that he's saying, he's arguing for 10 kinds of shunyata. 10 kinds of shunyata. Will not go into the details of all those things, but you'll see that what he's saying, in fact, this is very important for the literary theory which we are going to discuss. These assumptions are very important. One is, first of all, let's understand what does this mean. He says that the reality, paramartha, is beyond the 4 categories. Chatushkoti vinirmuktam. What are these chatushkotis or 4 categories? Asti, that something is there. Asti. Nasti, not there. Both, it is there as well as not there. And nasti and tadubhaya. Both. So plus, minus, both, and none. You know. So asti, nasti, tadubhaya, no bhaya. These 4 categories are there. Now reality is, shunyata is beyond these 4 categories. It cannot be captured, encapsulated either in positive or negative or both or none. It is beyond these 4 categories. So what is the idea? Idea is that when we try to categorize, categories are meant for explanation only. No category is absolute in that sense. They are only for prapancha. Prapancha means for explanatory modes. These are the explanatory modes. Otherwise, we cannot discuss anything. Okay? But these categories are just explanatory, and we cannot say that these are ontological or rigid, that they have to be there. Ultimately, we need to discard them. Okay? When their purpose is served, they need to be discarded. Okay? So, because the idea is to achieve that knowledge which is as to knowledge that is all pervasive, that is all omnipresent or like this, and not to create that knowledge, you know, or create that the ultimate self. We are not going to create something. We have made all these categories or all these principles of classification or so, just to achieve that element or that self which is uncategorized, which is beyond these categories. And that's why in our Upanishads also we see the expressions like aparimeya, unmappable, avigya, not knowable, like this. So all these categories need to be discarded at a certain point. Once their purpose is served, uh, we have to move beyond. We are not saying that everything is captured in this framework, but just to realize that something is beyond this framework, we have to apply this framework. You know, only then we will be able to see this. Unless we reach the summit of a mountain, we may not be able to see the vast scenery which is around us, you know, and only then we can see with a kind of a, with an element of surprise that, oh, this is too much. Nothing can be, this vast reality cannot be mapped, you know. But the important thing is that first, to achieve that height, only then we'll be able to see and say like this. Okay, so this is shunyata. The idea of shunyata is to capture that reality. You know, our Vedic rishis are also called mantra drashta. They were just the seer of that supreme self, supreme reality, ultimate reality. They were the seers, not the creators. The moment we create knowledge through a process, you know what happens, that we are probably not able to see the way the object is there. The object is there, we are creating it mentally. So the object may be different, but what the means which we have applied to know that object reconstitutes the object in a different way. Okay, I am moving towards ontology and epistemology of Buddhism, right? We'll have separate discussion on that also. But since this is a part of this philosophical assumption of Buddhism, Buddhist scholars, philosophers would say, see, there are two sets. One is called manadhina meya siddhi और मेयाधीना मान सिद्धि. मेयाधीना मान सिद्धि का अर्थ क्या हुआ? What is the meaning of that? May means prameya, the object of knowledge, and man is praman, epistemology. So one group is saying, one group of philosophical system or philosophers are saying that epistemology is established on the basis of ontology. Okay, and the other one is just opposite to this. Those who are saying that this is a matter of preference. Ontology means object of knowledge can be established only through means of knowledge, and others are saying that means of knowledge can only be established through ontology, object of knowledge. So these are the two approaches. Buddhists are saying that it is ontology that decides epistemology. Meyadhina man siddhi. So ontology is more important. Though you are not able to capture the object of knowledge, that doesn't mean that the object is not there. You have to rethink, revisit your epistemological approaches, epistemological framework, you know. So this is how it goes on. And other systems of thought believe in uh, that this is the epistemology that establishes object of knowledge. Okay, that's why there is no wonder that Buddhist philosophers paid less attention initially on pramana, pramana, that is on epistemological framework, pramana vyavastha. Okay, but and Nagarjuna, in this history of development of Buddhism, you will see that Nagarjuna is known as Pramana Vidvansaka Acharya, who has discarded, I mean, um, destructed this whole epistemological framework. So in his text, he has argued against the epistemological approaches, epistemology, because once we apply any means of knowledge, it reconstitutes the knowledge of the object in its own way. For example, we have pratyaksha, perception, inference, verbal testimony, analogy, like this. Various means of knowledge. How do we know? The question is very, very important here. How do we know what we know? Through which process we know this object. And the idea is that we apply certain means. See the structure of knowledge. There will be knower, there will be the object of knowledge, and there will be means that may connect these two. Okay, so this is triangle. One can see at one end you have knower, pramata, then on the other you have knowable, and in the middle you have the means of knowledge, that is epistemology. So knower, epistemology, and ontology. This is how knowledge is structured. Now the question is that if we apply certain means of knowledge to know the object, okay, what is the role of that means in constituting the knowledge of that object? Can we say that we have acquired absolute knowledge of the object when we are applying these means to know that object? Whether our knowledge will be relative to the means which we have applied, or the knowledge will be absolute. In this process, knowledge is always relative to the means which we have applied to know that object. So knowledge of the same object through perception, through inference, through verbal testimony, through analogy, or other means of knowledge like non-presence, etc., postulation, may differ as an end product. Okay, so this knowledge may differ. The object is same, but all these different means may reconstitute the knowledge of the object in their own way. Okay, so we are not saying that what we have acquired through these epistemological means is absolute knowledge. It is always with reference to the means which we have applied there. Okay, the actual object is still beyond our grasp. Okay, so there must be some other modes to know this, and that is why shunya is perceived like this, going beyond. You will see that in Buddhism, later on, after Dingnag, you will see that maybe because of the debate with the Nayayikas or so, they later on developed their own epistemology. And we have a great series, lineage of acharyas, beginning with Dingnag, Dharmakirti, and later on. There they started talking about discussing these epistemological issues. And but they developed very unique kind of epistemology. First of all, they say they have argued that there are only two objects of knowledge. There are two objects of knowledge. One is called Swalakshana, another is called Samanya Lakshana. I'm using the term of Vijnanavadins, but let us put it like this: Paramartha Satya and Samvritik Satya. Transcendental knowledge or transcendental reality and immanent reality. Transcendental and immanent. Paramarthik Satya and Samvritik Satya. In the terminology of Vijnanavadins, the same is called Swalakshana and Samanya Lakshana. Swalakshana, the nature, the self nature of the object, the self nature. This is how loosely you can translate. And the other is Samanya Lakshana, that is a kind of abstract view of the same. Abstract view, that is determined through other means. Now, since they have two means of knowledge, object of knowledge, Paramarthik Satya and Samvritik Satya, okay, they have decided that the means of knowledge should also be strictly two. Okay, through perception, pratyaksha, Paramarthik Satya can be obtained, and through Anuman or inference, Samanya Lakshana or Samvritik Satya can be obtained. So for perception, the domain is absolute, or let us say transcendental reality. For perception, the domain is transcendental reality, and for inference, the domain is immanent reality or Samanya Lakshana or Samvritik Satya. Samvriti, the term itself in Buddhism, is interpreted as intellect. Samvriti. So that which we capture through our intellect, that which we not only capture but also create through our intellect with the help of our rational faculties. The whole world is a construction of this, what we call intellect. Okay, so this is something samvritik. That's why categories are formed here and categories are imposed on reality. Categories like nityata is formed here and it is imposed on the reality, which is in momentariness. It is moving all the time. As a result of this imposition, the reality, which is all the time changing, it appears static, it appears eternal. This is how it changes the perception. So a tree is changing all the time, but since we have a word for that and we impose that word, we know that tree through this word, the tree appears static. We don't see the change. Change is perceived after a long period of time. After a period of time we can see, but the actual thing is that it was changing all the time. Or every moment it was changing, but we were not able to perceive it because we were using different means of knowing this, or this is our limitation of knowing, one can say. that we are not in a position to capture the changes which are taking place every moment there. So this aspect is known as Praman Vyavastha. Praman Vyavastha. There is a specific arrangement of epistemological means in Buddhism as against Pramana Samplava, that fluid nature, fluid arrangement of Pramanas. What I am trying to say here is that the means of knowledge, a specific means of knowledge, has its a specific domain of operation. So Pratyaksha is only for transcendental reality. Okay. Anuman is only for immanent reality. That cannot be altered, exchanged. That perception is also for Samvritik Satya, or Anuman is also for Paramarthik Satya. This is not possible. Okay, so two means of knowledge, two objects of knowledge, strictly defined, strictly categorized, strictly arranged. This system is called Pramana Vyavastha. These are the assumptions. I mean, there is always a possibility of critiquing it. You can always make a Purvapaksha of this. That is another thing. But these are the philosophical assumptions, and they have never given it up, despite all debates and discussion. These are the foundational things that cannot be altered. A Acharya has to defend this, through the logic or through other means. So that is important. But this is important. Now, when we come to the other assumptions, and I'm sure you are familiar with Arya Satya, and Arya Satya like Sarvam Dukkham Dukkham, that the world is full of suffering, and there are some causal factors for this dukkha, and this can be cured, this can be eradicated, this suffering can be cured, suffering can be discarded. And fourth is the means, upaya, and that is the Nirodhagamni Pratipada. So these are the Ashtangik Marg, Eightfold paths. These are the upayas through which this suffering can be effectively discarded, effectively can be overcome. This is very, very important aspect. I'm reminded of a text, Prativigya Hridayam, by Kshemaraj. Prativigya Hridayam. It's a Shaiva text from Kashmir Shaivism. And this is, I think, in Sankhya also, you have the same issue, that there are three kinds of suffering. A philosophical system must help us to overcome it, to go beyond this, or to discard it, to overcome it. The same is there in Shaiva philosophy also. There he says that he is creating, composing this text, Prativigya Hridayam, for getting rid of this worldly suffering, where the world has become like a poison, just to get rid of this, or to and first of all, why it has become like this, why the world has become like a poisonous ocean. So first of all, know this, why this has happened, and once we know the reason, we can overcome it also. So the idea is to go beyond this suffering. Suffering is not denied. We know there are various ways. Remember the opening lines of Anna Karenina of Leo Tolstoy. That is a great novel by Leo Tolstoy. He says that all happy families resemble one another. This is the opening line of Anna Karenina. All happy families resemble one another. every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way, you know. So there are thousand reasons to be unhappy. Who can control it, you know? But then there are certain means, there are certain ways who can take us beyond or help us to overcome this suffering. When we are doing discussing literature, art, that is also an important aspect, part of this kind of, you know, uh, effort to overcome this suffering. So all such things are there, and you will see that in Buddhism, all these four noble truths are discussed at length. Uh, Particularly, I would like to discuss the fourth one, Dukkha Nirodhagamini Pratipad, and that is the uh, what is known as Ashtangik Marg, Eightfold Path. These eightfold paths are important to overcome this suffering. Okay, and they are broadly categorized as pragya, sheel, and samadhi. Pragya, sheel, and samadhi. The first two, pragya, or how to translate it, maybe consciousness, let us say, or wisdom, something like that. Sheel, that is the I mean noble behavior, something like this, in worldly spheres, how to speak or how to act like this. And finally, samadhi. Samadhi means deep trance or meditation, just to realize one's own self, which is now free from this kind of disturbances or this kind of suffering. So first one is samyak drishti. Samyak drishti. Under pragya, we have two angas, two elements: samyak drishti, samyak sankalpa, then shila, samyak karmant. सम्यक सम्यक स्पीच, सम्यक वाक, सम्यक कर्मांत, action, samyak ajivika, livelihood, like this, you know. These are important. And under samadhi we have samyak vyayam, samyak smriti, and samyak samadhi. These are the eightfold paths, you know, ashtangik marg. These are called ashtangik marg, that help us to overcome this suffering, you know, overcome this suffering. So here we can see this among this samyak means what? Perfect, you know, proper, perfect, that which is important here. And then we'll see that how to lead the life. Life is to be can be made worth living when we follow the middle path, madhyam pratipada. This is what Buddha says. Then madhyam pratipada is like in both ways. I mean, just to avoid extremes. Two opposite extremes must be avoided, and that's why you see one of the philosophical branch of Buddhism is called madhyamikas, right? Madhyamikas. So that is very important here. Now, once we strike the middle path, then we will be able to see the goal of life, and also we'll be able to avoid the suffering which is generally caused by taking the extreme point of view. Okay, so this is how it goes on. Can we take a break for 5 minutes?
Yes, sir, please.
Hmm?
Please, we can take a break for 5 minutes.
Okay, sure.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Please, we can continue.
May I take a few questions right now or after the lecture?
So, whatever you would like to.
Uh,
You can take some now, or if you can complete your
okay,
talk, then we can take questions at the end.
right. That will be better, right? Huh?
Okay.
Right. So I'll take another 15-20 minutes and then after that we'll discuss. I was just discussing these eightfold paths, and that can be categorized under this Triratna, something like Shil, Samadhi, and Pragya. Shil, Samadhi, and Pragya. These are foundational elements in Buddhism, because we just talked about it is not only only Darshana, but other things are embedded into it, interlaced, like you can say this aspect of ethics or philosophical queries, all are interlaced with this, and also sadhana, that is important aspect of it, and tantra, Bauddha tantra, everything is related. So this samyak, with all these eightfold paths, we have used the word samyak, samyak drishti, samyak sankalpa, etc. Samyak means that which is proper, that which is perfect, and but the question is that how you are going to decide this is perfect or this is noble. Now, in case of this Buddha says that ete ho bhikkhave ubhe ante anupagamya majjhima patipada tathagaten avisambuddha चक्षुकर्णी ज्ञानकर्णी उपसमाय अभिज्ञानाय संबोधाय निब्बानम संवत्तति. This madhyam pratipada is very, very important, and this madhyam pratipada, middle path, is associated with each and every path which is discussed, eightfold path. Madhyam Pratipada is associated with each of these eightfold paths. Samyak Drishti, Samyak Vak, etc. Samyak Sankalp, Samyak Karmant, Samyak Ajiv, etc. So with every path, we need to associate this Madhyam Pratipada. I'm coming to that. So without knowing this middle path, drishti or sankalp or vachan or karmant, ajiv, etc. cannot be decided and cannot be incorporated in our life. That is important. So here he is saying that avoid the extremes. In every case, avoid the extremes. And remember that episode in Buddha's life when he was meditating without taking any food, also fasting continuously, and finally there was Sujata, and some food was offered by that noble lady, and Buddha took this, and then he said that don't tie the string of a musical instrument so much that it would break, or don't let it leave loose so that nothing can be played, no musical note can be played on that. So avoiding both the extremes is very, very important, and that cannot be done without wisdom, without wisdom. Then you will see this Ashtangik Marga, that is there available in Dhammapada also, 20 21, 20/1. Samyak drishti. The first is samyak drishti. Drishti means sight, but here it means knowledge, gyan. Samyak gyan. Samyak drishti means samyak gyan. It is a it is in the same lineage of thought what we have been discussing right from the Upanishad, like Shriya and Priya in Kathopanishad. Uh, there is a dialogue between Nachiketa and Yamraj, Dharmaraj, and there he preaches him, Dharmaraj, the god of righteousness or god of death in that sense, preaches this Shri and Priya to the young disciple Nachiketa, and says that at every step in life you have this choice of Shreya and Priya, what is dear to you and what is good to you. Okay, so this we have to decide at every moment in our life. In the same way, he's saying that the action oriented in our body, language, or mind can be kushal and akushal. Kushal, that is good ones, and that which is not good ones, let us say, that can be harming others also, or that can ensure benefit or welfare of the people. So know both of them, so that you are able to distinguish between the two, and you can also make a preference, which one is to be followed. Then you'll see in Majjhim Nikaya you have all the details, kushal and akushal karmas, actions, detailed discussions are there. I'm not going to take up. Then the second is called samyak sankalpa. Samyak sankalpa means nishchay, determination, determining something, and without perfect knowledge, this cannot be achieved. We decide something only when we know about it, when we have the knowledge about that object. So samyak drishti is first, proper knowledge is first, and then samyak sankalpa. Samyak sankalpa means taking the firm decision. Establishing the mind on certain object, certain aspect of the object. So then third is called samyak vachan. Once we know that with full determination of the object, then we'll be able to we need to speak it out correctly. And in that way we need to avoid what is not true, what is which when we engage in criticizing others, all such aspects that action oriented in our speech need to be properly regulated. Then fourth one is called samyak karmant, and that is like the philosophy of action. Generally, it is also discussed in Buddhism that what is to be done and what not to be done. So, for example, we need to avoid violence, untruth, saying untruth, or asteya, stealing, brahmacharya, practicing celibacy, and avoid keeping ourselves away from alcoholic consumptions, also intoxicating consumptions. So these are called panchashila. In Buddhism, they are called panchashila. So our act needs to be observed. Our acts need to be properly regulated. And then comes fifth one, samyak ajiva. proper livelihood. Proper livelihood. Um, we livelihood should also be noble, in the sense that in that process we are not going to um, harm others and acquiring something from them. Then sixth is called samyak vyayam. Vyayam here it means effort. Proper effort is to be taken for achievement or achieving our goals. And
You
Hello. May I? You're muted. Can you unmute, please? Okay, thank you, sir.
huh?
Yes, now we can.
I did you hear about this samyak vyayam?
Yeah, you just started and then it got muted.
Okay. So samyak vyayam means proper effort, and um, seventh one is proper memory, samyak smriti, and this has been discussed in the Dignikaya of Mahasati Patthana Sutra 2.9. There are four smriti prasthanas, four departures, four aspects of this smriti. Kaya anupashyana, relating to our body, uh, remembering all the time that this body is made of gross elements. Then Vedana anupashyana, Vedana means experience here, and it refers to our sukha, dukkha, uh, and absence of these two. Happiness, unhappiness, and absence of the two. So this is called Vedana anupashyana, and dharma anupashyana. Fourth is dharma anupashyana, that once we know all these things, third is chitta anupashyana. So our chitta is established the way we know the object, our experiences. And fourth is called dharmanupashyana, and once that ability to decide what is right, what is wrong is established in chitta, then we are in fact in a position to know the actual nature of the objects, and the person who knows all these first three, kaya anupashyana, vedana anupashyana, and chitta anupashyana, is established in a dharma, in his own self. I have been telling right from the beginning that ultimately this is the self that matters in this culture, knowing the self, So through various means, through various efforts, we are ultimately trying to know the nature of the self, or getting established in our real self. So this is what that is important. And with every this anga, or let us call path, madhyam pratipada is associated. How? For example, samyak drishti. So here also madhyam pratipada is important, to know both the extremes, positive and negative, and getting established, because these two are the extremes. You remember the Nasdiya Sukta in Rigveda, how the reality is described. Sometimes we are forced to describe the ultimate self in the contradictory language. So the same thing we see in Veda, particularly in this Nasdiya Sukta, or in Upanishad like Ishavasya Upanishad, Tadayajati, Tannayajati, Taddure, Tadvantike, etc., that he moves, he doesn't move, something like this. In this kind of contradictory language, the Rishi is trying to capture the reality in its totality. It is neither only positive nor negative, completely. So it is both. And just to explain this unity or going beyond this dichotomy, here we have the use of the word shunya in Buddhism. So capturing the reality in totality. There is no other way to do this. So truth is in the middle. It is neither positive absolutely nor negative absolutely. Okay, somewhere in the middle. Just like shunya in the numerical expressions, shunya is in the middle, and shunya is the reference point to decide what is on the left side. You have negative numbers, on the right side you have positive numbers. Nothing can be decided in the absence of this middle path. That is shunya. So shunya itself is undefined, cannot be defined directly, but through this positive and negative impositions, one can decide it. One can talk about it. Okay, so these things are very, very important. And finally, what we have talked about, Shil, Pragya, and Samadhi, you'll see that these three are very, very important foundational assumptions of Buddhism. And we just explained that Eightfold paths are in fact the elaboration of these three: Shil, Samadhi, and Pragya. Under this Shil, you have um, you have to lead the life without any kind of improper conducts, like avoiding violence, stealing, or practicing celibacy, etc. These are called Panchashila. So following a life on the basis of Panchashila, this is called Shila. Shila is 5, that's why it is called Panchashila. And Dashashil is also discussed, earlier in early Buddhism. Whatever has been said like this can be combined together, and it is called Satkarma. And finally, you will see that Shil and Samadhi, because of this practicing Shil and Samadhi, keep on meditating of this Shila and other things, Pragya emerges. Pragya, that is important. I don't know how to translate this Pragya, but something like a perfect wisdom, experiential, that has the experiential content, not just intellectual, experiential. So once this emerges out of Shil and Samadhi, we are able to see within quote that the cause of suffering has been avidya. Avidya means ignorance, or not the ability of not knowing the object as it is. So this is avidya. And till this pragya emerges, this avidya cannot be eradicated. What is important to note here is that pragya and avidya cannot stay together. Yeah? Pragya, eradicates this. And that's why pragya is also categorized in 3 ways. 3 kinds of pragya have been discussed. I'm giving you this from Abhidharma Kosh. Abhidharma Kosh 6.5. Abhidharma Kosh is a text by Vasubandhu, 6.5. This 3 kinds of pragya is discussed. First is Shrutamayi Pragya. Shrutamayi Pragya. that statement, the statement which we have heard from the knowledgeable persons, you know, that statement help us to determine our thought, to establish our thought. eh? So this is called Shrutamayi Pragya, statement of the knowledgeable persons or texts, let us say, knowledge texts, knowledgeable persons or knowledge texts. So then our mind, our intellect gets established because of this Shrutamayi Pragya. That's why it is called Shrutamayi. Then the second is Chintamayi Pragya. Chintamayi. Chinta means that you keep reflecting on the object, and in the process of reflecting upon it, um, a kind of determinate knowledge or determination is achieved. This is called Chintamayi Pragya. And the third is called Bhavanamayi Pragya. Bhavanamayi Pragya, that relates to our, inner self, and that helps us to get established in a deep trance or deep meditation. Samadhi Janya Nishchaya. So the ability or the determination that comes out of this trance experiential process. So this is how these three kinds of pragya helps us to establish ourself in our real self. We are no longer a dislocated self. Once the self is dislocated, then the suffering begins. And how to relocate one's own self, the path is given as Shil, Samadhi, and Pragya, which are the which has been later elaborated as Ashtangic Marg, Eightfold Path. Okay, so this is how it goes on. And once this is achieved, then this world, the suffering, worldly suffering, is also overcome, and finally we achieve what we called nirvana, or the ultimate liberation. This is not only to say that we are free from suffering, that is also to say that we are established in our own self. Whatever self is there, it is whether it is permanent or in momentary or whatever, but we are in a position to realize what the real self is, and this is how we overcome our suffering also. In this background, in this philosophical assumptions, there are one or two more things which need to be discussed. One is that Pratitya Samutpada. This, I'm moving now to the philosophical aspect of it. Pratitya Samutpada, causal, what to call causal manifestations. So whatever is there, it is a product of these causal factors. Pratitya Samutpada. So for everything there has to be certain cause. Okay, a product is ultimately rooted in its cause. Okay, so whatever we see, it is a kind of production of certain where certain causal factors have worked. So in that way, the world is also has manifested like this. And this Karanavad, Pratitya Samutpad, refers to the philosophy or the principle of causation. Nothing can emerge, nothing can be produced without a cause. So this is what we know as Pratikya Samutpada. Important thing is that if few things few things collaborate and a product is made, now the question is that what is the self nature of that product that has emerged out of this process? So it finally leads to a kind of shunyata, that the object may not have its own specific nature because it is dependent on several other factors. Okay. Uh, the second thing is that uh, let me see this anityata, which we have discussed. Anityata. So if the objects are product of these causal factors, first it is devoid of its self nature, and the second thing is that it cannot be a permanent entity. Once the causal factors are taken away, this will collapse. So nothing is in that way permanent. That it is. So what earlier we discussed about pravaha nityata and kutastha nityata. Pravaha nityata refers to this process. Process is more emphasized there rather than the product. So this processing is very, very important. And in this system, in this philosophical system, Buddhism, when we are going to discuss literary theory or language, process is very, very important. How we arrive at this particular conclusion that this particular object is meant or is produced or referred by a certain word. So this is the process that determines it. You know? The process determines the product, ultimate end. And broadly we term it as pravaha nityata, something like this. So you will see that in this two things are here established. One is that it is the nityata is denied, so impermanence. And second thing is that nothing is without the causal factors. These two things. You'll see that when in the Noble Truth, when it is said that the world is full of suffering, there has to be some cause. Okay, so the cause is discussed at length. What is the cause? Avidya, definitely. Avidya or ignorance is the cause of this kind of suffering, because we are unable to know the actual nature of the world, how this has been functioning, how it has been processed. So just to explain this, the real nature of the world, all these eightfold paths and all such things are discussed. Samyak Drishti, etc. are discussed. Now, second thing is that what we call as Anatmavad. Second philosophical assumption is Anatmavad. What is Anatman? Without self. Without self. The philosophy that doesn't register any self. And it is important to understand that though Buddha denies this notion or the concept of Atman as permanent object, eternal object, but at the same time they refer to Panchaskandha, right? Five elements, five branches or five elements, one can say. I'm coming to that. First is that once the self is without any permanent element in it. So what he is doing, we just refer to two kinds of realities, Paramarthik Satya and Samritik Satya, remember? So Atma is denied as transcendental. Okay, Atman is not realized or accepted as transcendental object, right? In the sense that it is permanent. Okay, the way it is understood in other thought systems. At the same time, it is accepted as Vyavaharik Satya. Okay, Vyavaharik. It is constructed for Vyavahara. For pragmatic reason, this has been called Atman. At that level, it is accepted. Okay. So here he is saying that instead of Atman, what we are calling Atman or Atma is in fact the conglomeration of the five skandhas. Five skandhas. And skandha literally means collection, conglomeration. Okay, conglomeration. So five elements are put together, they are combined together, and the practical pragmatic name of this set of five elements is called Atman in Buddhism. Please remember, we are discussing in the context of Buddhism. And here, what the other systems have discussed Atman as something transcendental, something permanent, something eternal, something that moves from this life to another life, like this. All such things are here not accepted in that way. Now, these five, remember, Buddha is against Shashvatvad and Uchchedavad, both. These two are the extreme positions, that something is eternal and nothing exists. Okay, these are the two different extremes. Now the beauty or the achievement of Buddhism is to remain in the middle, you know. So he is avoiding both these extreme ways, Shashvat and Uchcheda. And then he's saying he's not denying Atman. He's saying that it has pragmatic reality, and it is a kind of set of these five elements that we name designate as Atman. Okay, what are these five? Rupa Skandha. Five skandhas are Rupa Skandha, Rupyante Evir Vishaya, through which the object is described. This is that refers to our knowing senses. That refers to our knowing senses. Through our knowing senses, we know the object. Okay, so Rupyante Evir Vishaya. This is one of the interpretations of this Rupa, and another is Rupyante Iti Rupani, jiske dwara, that which establishes the object. So the second meaning is the object itself, through that which is established through our knowing senses. So these are the two etymological interpretations of this term Rupa. So first skandha is called Rupa. And the second skandha is called Vijnana. Vijnana means the consciousness that something like the knowledge of Rupa, or the form, Rasa, that is the experience, Gandha, etc. All the objects which are around us, that which we know, the faculty that helps us to know them is called Vijnana Skandha. And that's why we know that who am I, who is the knower, and also we know what is there to be known. This kind of ability is called Vijnana Skandha. Third is called Vedana Skandha, experience here. So we feel happy, we feel unhappy. This kind of experiences is dear or non-dear, something like this. This is called Vedana Skandha. And fourth is Sangya Skandha. Sangya Skandha is that when we know the actual nature of the object, actual nature of the object, this is called Sangya Skandha. And fifth one is called Sanskara Skandha, Sanskara. That is a kind of when we have this attachment or detachment or or something like that which we when we are happy or unhappy, we receive the subtle aspect of that experience in ourself, that leaves a kind of imprint on ourself. That is called samskara. So the imprint of the experiences which we have received, which we have gained, finally it seeps down in ourself and stored there. These five are very, very important, and there is nothing more than this. Together, all these five skandhas are designated as Atman. So there is no denial. Those who say that Buddha has rejected Atman, no, it is rejected on the ontological, transcendental level. Buddha has accepted it at the level of pragmatic world. Now, there is an interesting debate, interesting episode rather. Are we crossing the time?
Sir, see, yeah, the students might have the other class. It's 2:42, 4:40.
I'm sorry.
Would you like
So
to take some questions, sir?
we'll continue in the next class. If one or two questions, if we may take. Huh?
Yes, it will be very helpful. Okay, some one or two questions. Anybody? Please unmute yourself or just raise your hand.
Uh,
Shivadi, yes, please continue.
yes, sir. Namaskar, sir. I'm Shivadi Mishra, second year student.
Okay.
So I had this. Could you please clarify this statement or this idea of Meya Dhina Mana Siddhi? I understand the basic thing, but like how so it this idea was there in Buddhism from the start, but when Buddhism developed and they started having debate with Nyaya,
Mhm.
did it change or it still remains the same?
Uh, See, the basic foundational assumptions cannot be changed in any system, whether it is Buddhism or Nyaya or any other system. These are the foundational things. They don't change it. They may engage in debate and discussions, and they will clarify it, making it established. That is the beauty of the Vada tradition. So nothing is uprooted in that process. When questions are asked, then probably you pay more attention to what you have said, and you'll try to clarify, you'll try to reformulate the things. But foundational things do not change. If it is changed, then the whole structure will collapse. So in the process of debate with Nyaya or other thought systems, it is still there. I mean, when they say Meyadhina Mana Siddhi, okay, Meyadhina Mana Siddhi, uh, epistemology is determined by ontology. So ontology is of prime importance. The idea is to know that though our epistemological frameworks are not that much sophisticated, not that much competent, that doesn't mean that reality can be reduced to what the means of knowledge are permitting us. Reality is to be known. That is the important aspect of it. So finally, it is the ontology that is more preferred than epistemology. So we need to we need to modify, make it more sophisticated, make the epistemology more sophisticated, more competent to know the object. We are not reducing the ontology to this epistemology. Okay, we need to reformulate our epistemological framework. Not only Buddhism, Shaivism also, Kashmir Shaivism also say like this, that you have to decide. Uh, there is vast reality out there. We need to know this. We are not saying that to the extent our epistemological framework are allowing us to know it. That is the whole reality. So it may be beyond this. So the idea is to make the epistemological framework more and more advanced, more and more sophisticated, so that we can grasp it. This is the goal, that we may grasp it in its totality, not in the sense that we are going to create that within quote. We are creating that reality is not the goal. Goal is to know as it is. So to the extent these epistemological frames may help us, that is fine. Otherwise, we need to revise it, make it more, competent in that sense. Yes.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, sir.
Now we take 2 more questions and then we stop for today. And tomorrow, please write your questions. And
Yes.
whatever questions you have, we'll make sure that we have more time for question answer if sir allows. And
Yeah.
then you can ask them tomorrow. So one from Gordana and then from Twesha. So Gordana, please unmute and ask your question.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Gordana, please ask your question. Gordana, we can hear.
Professor Mishra, I'm Gordana Jovanovic. I'm a psychology from University of
You are not audible.
Gordana, your voice broke for us. Could you please repeat your question or type it in the chat box?
Better now?
No, your voice is breaking. No, it's breaking. Better
Is
you
it
write
better
it.
now?
No, it's breaking.
Okay, I will try tomorrow. Thank you. I'll try
Okay.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. And Twesha, just unmute
Hello.
yourself.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes,
So my
Trisha?
question is that according to you, what is the definition of Pratitya Samutpad?
Pratitya Samutpad literally means relative theory of relative causation. So nothing is absolute. No object is absolute, and that's why it cannot have its own nature. So there are some causal factors that together make this object manifest, or in that process the object is produced. So it is devoid of its nature, first of all, and second thing is that it is relative. Relative to what? The causal factors. So it is not absolute, right? This is the meaning, basically.
Thank you, sir. Gordana, you like to try? You like to try now if it's better for you?
I think the problems with internet, but
can
I
hear
can
me.
try. So I would like. Is it better now?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I would like to come back to two pramanas you mentioned, Pratyaksha and Anumana, and you said that they are meant for a specific domain. Pratyaksha for transcendental reality and Anumana for immanent reality. So to me, it is counterintuitive, but this is not argument against that. Somehow, to me, it seems contradictory to claim that perception can reach or get knowledge of transcendental reality, which is not of a sensual nature. And on the way to acquiring liberation, those aspiring are actually supposed to control their senses, including also perception. So somehow I have difficulties to associate pratyaksha with transcendental reality and anumana with immanent reality. In my view, it would be just the opposite the case. So if you
Okay.
can...
No, fine. Thank you very much for your
Thank you very much.
observation. Thank you for your observation. I think I have not completed this aspect today. When we discuss pratyaksha in detail, what do we mean by pratyaksha in Buddhism? Then probably we'll take up this question there. Okay, because pratyaksha is uniquely defined in Buddhism. That's why I was saying that one important thing about philosophical systems in India is that they use very limited vocabulary. Core vocabulary is same almost in various thought systems, but each time it is defined uniquely. So first we need to understand what pratyaksha means and anuman means. Why they have not included other means of knowledge. Why only two? Okay, so this will take up in the coming lectures, and there I'll be able to answer your question more properly. Okay, this question, your observation is very good, and we'll take up, because pratyaksha is defined in a different way. Pratyaksha kalpana, podam, nam, jatyadi, samyutam, etc. So we'll take up later on. I have not completed that. So there, you please keep this observation or question there. We'll be able to discuss this. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much,
very
Professor.
much.
Thank you very much. I must say this was an enriching session for all of us. And you started from even, defining and also discussing this whole notion of Nastika and Astika, which has been made so simple in a way, but how there is a very interesting way of classifying the different 16 philosophical schools. So even that can be discussed further. And also then you told us that even how to write the history of thoughts is a very important area, and it's not as easier as writing the history of something substantial, biological. And also then you took us through the journey of the different concepts in Buddhism, like starting from Eightfold Noble Path, Four Noble Truths, and also the Sila Samadhi Pragya, and then how they are associated with the middle path or the Madhyamik Marg, and then finally coming to the most important part, which is the Shunyata, and how it is very important to understand that we need to know the Pramana Vyavastha of Buddhism, and which will be continued in your next lecture, which is on Buddhist ontology and epistemology. So we very much look forward to your lecture tomorrow again at 2:30. And please enrich us with your wisdom tomorrow as well. And I also thank our students for their very interesting questions. And I know the time was limited, but please write them for tomorrow's lecture. And thank you once again to our Dean, Professor Sushant Mishra, for enabling us to have these lectures from Professor Rajnish. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again.
Namaskar. We'll meet tomorrow. Namaskar.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you.
Namaskar.